Themes of Geography, Part 2. So this is Part 2 of the Themes of Geography video. You need to have Parts 1 and 2 in order to completely fill out your notes guide. Let's get started. Okay, so we're dealing with the 5 themes of geography, and this brings us to the first theme of geography. Now, this is something that will tie the rest of everything that we do in for the rest of the semester into the 5 themes of geography. The first one is location. And location, you can tell by these pictures pretty much what location is, the graphics. Location is a specific place on planet Earth. So if you take a look at these graphics, you are here. That is your location. At the mobile phone, at the BlackBerry, the GPS is up there. They're in Central Park. Here, you are located here. All of these demonstrate what location is, and that is just a specific place on the planet Earth. And once again, here it goes. Here's another. You are right there. So location is pretty simple, right? And this is just a review for a location. There are 2 types of location. That is the absolute location, which we discussed last week. Absolute location, that is your exact location on the Earth's surface. And the relative location. The relative location is the location of a place in relation to another place. So I think the example that we used last week is that if I asked you where your home was located, if you were using absolute location, you could either tell me your address or the exact coordinates on a map. And if we use relative location, you would say something like, instead of saying that you're the exact location of the exact coordinates, you would say, I live north of Gonzales Middle, or I live right next to Central Middle, or I live south of Airline Highway. And there goes the technical definition of relative location. It is the location of a place in relation to another place. Now, place is the second theme of geography, and place covers a couple of different types of things. Okay, so let's go into the first one. Place deals with physical landforms, waterways, land areas. When we talk about the physical characteristics of a place, like when we discuss place, a good thing to have in mind is you are describing what is an area like. So with that in mind, physical landforms, waterways, land areas, these are all ways that we can use to describe a place. So let's talk about where we are now. The characteristics of Ascension Parish. How do we describe us as a place? Well, our total area equals 303 square miles. The land area is 292 square miles, and there are 11 square miles of water area. Now we'll talk a little bit about the human characteristics of the place. Now, human characteristics of a place, make sure that you're writing this down. What they have. The human characteristics of a place. What I want you to write on your paper are the human characteristics of a place. They include the culture, which of course is religion, language, government, and economy. So human characteristics of a place. Once again, they include the culture, which are the religion, language, government, and economy. And giving examples of some human characteristics of a place, we can talk about the human characteristics of Ascension Parish. We can discuss our population really quickly. Hold on, let's go back. Human characteristics of a place with Ascension Parish. Let's do this. Our religion. The human characteristics of Ascension Parish. Our religion are Christian. We have a strong Catholic influence. Our language is English. We have a strong French influence. The government is a democracy, and the economy. Our economy on this area is based a lot on the petroleum industry. All of those go into defining the place that is Ascension Parish. Region is the next theme of geography that we will discuss. What a region is. Write this down as the definition for a region. A region is an area that are united by common characteristics. So region is an area that is united by common characteristics. There are 3 types of regions, and we will actually get into common characteristics and all that stuff later on. Just kind of bear with me. Going back to there are 3 types of regions. There's the formal region, there's a functional region, and there's a perceptual region. Just giving you a quick preview. A formal region, if you want to put this in parentheses behind each one, a formal region is what it says formal. Formal means that there are written definitions or there are written standards. There are certain standards that everywhere included in this region that they all abide by. So it can be, a region can be defined by the temperature. So we're in a region that we're kind of in a subtropical region. A region could be defined by the type of laws that are in that area. So formal, written, formal characteristics of an area. Functional. A functional region, really quickly, is just a region where people, they work together for a common purpose. So they work together for a common purpose. We talk about different areas. If you see like New Orleans and Baton Rouge, we're linked together by railroad. We're linked together. We share people. People drive from New Orleans to Baton Rouge to work. So with formal region, a functional region is that we are a functional region, that we work together for a purpose. And perceptual region. A perceptual region, just really quickly, is something that is perceived to be a region. Like, I don't know, Saints Nation. Saints Nation is kind of perceived to be all in South Louisiana. It's no written definition. There are no borderlines for Saints region, for Saints Nation. There are no written borders or anything like that. It's just what we perceive to be a certain area, part of the Saints region. Getting into the definition of a formal region, it is, like I mentioned earlier, it's places that are defined by similar physical or human characteristics. So make sure you have that written down for a formal region, that places that are defined by similar physical or human characteristics, otherwise known as a uniform region. The important thing, put a star next to this for formal regions. A formal region can be supported with facts. That is one thing that separates a formal region from the functional and perceptual regions, that they can actually be defined by facts. An example of a formal region is, let's take a look at the map, take a look at the graphs. These are actually some examples of formal regions. This first map shows different regions, climatic regions, okay? And we can tell that each of these colors represents a different region. So let's see where we are in Louisiana. I wish there was a color that just said hot. That would be pretty much us. Humid subtropical. So humid subtropical. That is Louisiana in the southeastern part of the United States. We're defined by similar physical or human characteristics. That means that we're defined by similar rainfall. In this case, we're defined by similar rainfall. We're also defined by similar heat. So that is us. Another example of a formal region is plantation country or cotton country. There's parts of Louisiana where more of the agriculture or more of the economy is based around the cotton industry than others. Number two, the second type of region is a functional region. And a functional region is just a region centered around a focal point or a place defined by systems that link the area. Otherwise known as a nodal region, this occurs a lot in metropolitan areas. So before I use the example of Baton Rouge and New Orleans sharing a railroad, I would actually take a look at this graphic at the bottom. If you see where my cursor is, this occurs quite often in metropolitan areas. Dallas, Houston, New York, Chicago, even LA, Atlanta, New Orleans, all of these places, they are linked together by they all have a mass transit system. So they are all really good examples of functional regions. And what that means is that there are trains that link Dallas, for example. There are trains that link Dallas, the city of Dallas, with the different suburbs. There are buses that go to the different suburbs, so people, instead of driving to go to work, they can catch the train in the morning actually into the city of Dallas, or they can ride the bus. All of those areas around Dallas, they are a functional region because they all participate together in the mass transportation. And it's like that with a lot of major cities. So when you see New York, the tri-state area, and it doesn't just have to be within a state. within a particular state. In New York, let's go. If you write around the bottom, you see where New York touches Connecticut and Pennsylvania. That is called the tri-state area. They have a functional region for mass transportation because it's so easy. So they align all of their transportation resources together. And because people live in Connecticut and catch the bus into New York, right around this area, or they catch the train into New York, or they live in Pennsylvania and catch the train into New York. That is another example of a functional region. The third type of region that we'll discuss is called the perceptual region. And a perceptual region is just a place defined and shared by shared ideals and feelings. It's just a place defined by shared ideals and feelings. They're otherwise known as vernacular regions. The thing about perceptual regions is that they're based completely on opinions. So they are the exact opposite of a formal region. They're based completely on opinions. This graphic at the bottom is an example of a perceptual region. This is called the Bible Belt. And what that is that there's a belief by the rest of the nation that the places on the map that are highlighted in red, that religion is more prominent, or religion is more of a priority in the lives of people in the southeastern part of the United States. It's a perceptual region because that's hard to prove. Like, it's really hard to prove. Like, you can have surveys and with people in different areas to prove how much of a priority religion is in their lives, but that's still kind of hard to prove, So even with the survey, that is still hard to prove. So the Bible Belt is a perceptual region. I mentioned earlier, Saints Nation would be a perceptual region. It's just what we perceive everyone down here to be Saints fans. LSU is LSU Nation would be another perceptual region because it's perceived that the people here are all joined by a love for the Louisiana State University. And not the last one. Movement is a theme of geography. And what movement does, go back. All right. Ooh, not working on me today. Give me a minute. Movement is a theme of geography. And write this down. Make sure that you write this down for movement. What movement covers is the transfer of people, goods, and ideals from one place to another. I will say that again. What movement covers is the transfer of people, goods, and ideals from one place to another. When we think about an example of that, one example of transferring people from one place to another, if a family moves across the nation for a job, people do that all the time looking for work. Goods, when you transfer goods from one part of the region to another. Well, all of the petroleum that we synthesize or manufacture here in South Louisiana, that is transported by train to other parts of the nation. And ideals, the internet, right? You guys do that all the time. You transport ideals from one ideal to another when you email one another, or when you text message one another, or when you're on social media, probably saying things you shouldn't to one another, not touching that. But that is an example, right? And the last part of the human environment interaction of the last theme of geography covers human environment interaction. And this covers, make sure you are writing this down, human and geographic interaction. And this should be written like right here in your notes, on your notes outline. The study of the interrelationship between people and their environment. Once again, the definition for human environment interaction is the study of the interrelationship between people and their environment. And interrelationship, the way you spell interrelationship is interrelationship, between people and their environment, environment. And what it covers is how people depend on the environment, adapt to the environment, modify the environment in order to meet their needs. And these are all examples of how we interact with our environment. All right, at the end, make sure that you complete your notes guide. Do not do anything in the black box, we will complete that in class. Have a good evening.